long time, a long, long time. Almost 10 years since I started my journey. And it was a journey that was one filled with hope, dreams and ambitions, where I remember one of my teachers from Markfield, interestingly, Dr. Atawla Siddiqui rahimahullah, told me that after I finished my master's program, Rizwan, calm down, slow down. There's a reality to what you're trying to achieve, and it's not always easy. And I was blinded by this aspiration of things that are achievable, things that I want to do, all of these grand ideas that I've got. And that perhaps makes a little bit more sense when you understand the journey that I've come from and through. So I started off, perhaps as many children do here in the UK, going to madrasa. And then at the age of 14 or 15, I stopped. Went to college. And in college, found God. And my life changed. And what I wanted to do was, and all I wanted to do was become a Maulvi. Now, I don't think I've succeeded in that. But it was a program that I started nevertheless. And as this journey, which was intended to be 6 years, started, it was a journey that would stretch over into 11 years. Because I got married, and alhamdulillah, I had children, and I realized being married is an expensive job, and having children is even more expensive. And those aspirations and visions that I had of money under the musalla just didn't really exist. So I had to go out and work. So I became a police officer with the West Midlands Police. And I did that for approximately 12, 13 years. And during this time, alhamdulillah, I completed my Dars al-Nizami. I went on to do a master's at Markfield, and that catalysed the ambition inside me to go on and do a doctorate. And my PhD was interesting because it was informed by my operational experience as a police officer. You know, when 7/7 happened, shortly after, the West Midlands Counter-Terrorism Unit was formed. And I was a traditionalist when I was going through my madrasa days. So I would go to work in my turban and in my jubba. And when 7/7 happened, everybody turned and looked at me as though I had the solution to the problems of international global terrorism. Now, Riz, tell us what's going on. Tell us why these things happen. And I understood better through that journey the culture that existed within the service and the absent voices not present in the room to inform Muslim opinion in relation to matters that touch all our lives. Schedule 7 being 1, counter-terrorism stops being 2, and all the rest of it that carries on from that. Things that inform public policy and opinion. And that became the real driver for me for want to research this area in greater detail. So I submitted my application for a PhD. Alhamdulillah, it was accepted and I was really happy. But my problem is that I don't look forward and far enough. So I started the program and hit it really, really hard for the first 18 months, and then I ran out of money. And now I'm sitting at home because there's no finance for it. And I kid you not, I tried every single conceivable avenue that was possible to fund my PhD. EHRC funding applications, AHRC funding applications, Joseph Roundtree funding applications, European Union, you name it, writing to ministers, got to the point where I even wrote to individual celebrities. Named them, found out what their interests were, the amount of time that I invested to try and find out who's interested in this international context and portfolio, done the work, wrote out to them. And letter after letter, email after email was, thank you for your letter. Unfortunately, thank you for your letter. I'm sorry to inform you. Thank you for your letter, but we regret to say. Time and time and time and time and time again. And it got to the point where it was inconceivable for me to continue because the finances just weren't in place. And somebody informed me about the gift of knowledge. And I tried absolutely everybody. Muslims, charity organisations, non-Muslim charity organisations, you name it. I tried some of the familiar ones with us as well. And I thought, listen, what's going to be different about this organisation? I must have applied to about 40 or 50 independent organisations, established organisations and individuals. What's going to make it this one any different? And by the way, included within that are your humanitarian aid and relief organisations, included within that are your National Scout Foundations, included within that are your Aziz Foundations and all the other foundations that exist. The only organisation that had the courage to take on my research subject area was the Gift of Knowledge. And they supported me at a time where there was nothing else left. I had put all of my eggs into this basket of completing this PhD because the classical, and even though my appearance may deceive you, I am a classical scholar at heart. I'm a classical scholar at heart. And that's what interests me, that's what motivates me, understanding the dynamism and the conversations that exist within the broad theological debate. Not that you could really call it a debate, but a debate around the motivations for violent extremism. Things that we all are tarnished by, simply by the fact that we're Muslim, because organisations and institutions that operate at the level that they do don't understand the classical perspective, the orthodox perspective. So here we go. All this dream and ambition and no drive forward for it. Alhamdulillah, by Allah's grace and mercy, I made the application, expecting it not to be accepted, received an invitation, went, and it was just, I remember my first meeting with Sheikh for him. I took out my book, my pen, my pad, and Sheikh sat there. He goes, we're not going to, I don't know why you're taking all that out for you. This is just a conversation for me to understand you. So we had a fantastic conversation over about an hour. He understood my background. And then since that day, roughly 2015, they have been supporting me as recent as last academic year. I completed my PhD in 2020 solely by Allah's grace and mercy and support that the Gift of Knowledge gave me. I went on to become a lecturer at the University of Huddersfield, and now I'm a regional course director at Staffordshire University working on the accredited programmes into policing. I am involved more now at the strategic level in policing than I ever was in the 12 or 15 years that I was in the police service. And that is solely by Allah's grace and mercy and the support that the Gift of Knowledge gave me. You know, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he mentions al-mu'min lil-mu'min kal-bunyan al-marsus yashuddu ba'dahu ba'da kama qala alayhi salatu wasalam. That one believer for another is like a fortified structure. That one gives strength to the other. And just as, alhamdulillah, Sheikh and his team, the Gift of Knowledge, broadly speaking, gave me strength, Allah is slowly putting me in the position now, alhamdulillah, to support others in the service, to get through to the ranks and the positions that I wasn't able to, that the generations before us weren't able to. Because we can have those conversations at those levels where discussions around policy, around procedure are had, and we can influence that narrative. That's important because this is a project that isn't just for the here and now. This is a project that goes beyond our lifetime into the future generations. I see children here. Children will continue to be impacted and affected by the legacy that we leave or the legacy that we don't leave. Alhamdulillah, Sheikh's team is firmly rooted within that. They have been for a decade. I'm over time, my apologies, but Jazakumullah khair, and Sheikh, Jazakumullah khair personally from my heart, alhamdulillah, for all the support that you've given me. Assalamu alaikum.